I'm Dr. Connie. I'm your host of Mind Your Health podcast. I share my unique perspective both as a practitioner and a patient battling autoimmune condition for over 25 years because I had to figure things out on my own, and my education in my practical approach as a patient allows me to truly integrate it so that you can be whole and the burden of sick care is no longer your own burden to carry. And this is what we help you with in this podcast.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Connie. So this week's podcast is all about relating stress and your confidence. So lately we've had big news. I think we might have a potential buyer for the house, which means we have to pick up and leave and, all the moving, the stress, it's a little overwhelming. And I'm going to tie that back to the topic of our conversation today because definitely I've had few instances and circumstances in my life where my own confidence was questioned by the level of stress that I have in my life. And oftentimes, stress comes from those very subtle things. So lately, I've been really busy because we're launching our functional yoga medicine certification program, and it's been so busy. Couple that with running my own business over there in Swanee with all the troubles that comes with it, I was really feeling like I was barely making it. And every day I would wake up with the dread in my heart, like, oh, here I go again, type of a feeling. And I realized, oh my gosh, everything is going in the right direction. I should be really, really happy. But then there was that underlying stress, right? And I used to be that person that if somebody stopped me in the streets and asked me, how are you? You must be so stressed out because of all the things that I'm doing. I would say, no, I'm fine, right? I don't feel the stress. Not to mention, when I did work with patients one-on-one in my clinical setting, when I would ask them about the stress levels, most of us think it's some gigantic thing like a divorce or a move or anything detrimental that happens. We don't think about the little subtle stressors that is pervasive in the very nature and the fiber of our being. So today I just want to kind of delve a little bit into the effect of stress on the physiology, as well as how stress may impact your confidence to prevent you or stumping you from going for the very thing that you want, right? Because really, stress does play a critical role. And confidence plays a critical role in all our lives because when we're not confident, we tend to portray a lot of our insecurities into the world and with those other people. We become very defensive, we become very egocentric, and we're all about the me, and validating who we are, almost like proving ourselves. And I think confidence speaks louder than words because it's something that you bring. Like it's almost like a state of being, right? You sit up tall without even knowing, and you portray this persona, and you have so much charisma and authority, and there is no question in what you believe in. And I think that's so important in every facet of our lives. So having said that, I want you to understand that confidence does affect our ability to make decisions. It does affect our professional as well as really physical performance, whether you're an athlete or you practice yoga like me. It can really affect your performance in your life, as well as, like I said, relationships. When you're not confident, we tend to portray our insecurities onto other people. So it does have a play in our relationship. And it's almost like if we don't feel heard, or if we don't feel like we have any, voice or a say in the relationship, we become very resentful, and then we become very, this is going to be very tricky to say, but very shameful in our ability to communicate. And we tend to hide behind other people or never raise our hands in life to keep ourselves from being seen almost. We don't take up space, and that's a problem. as well as it does have a play in your mental health, because when you don't have the confidence, everything's going to feel like glass is half empty as opposed to half full. So these are all aspects of confidence that you can have, and really confidence, that saying where you can make it or fake it until you make it. There's a book by Amy Cuddy. I love that book because it really explains the physiology of your posture, right? Posture is everything, and that confidence that can be boosted from the energy flow from your chakra, or really your central nervous system is what she talks about, and then the brain chemistry of having that surge of that energy and confidence. There is a spoken hormone and brain chemistry that goes along with it. And of course, confidence will also play into your overall well-being, and that relates directly to your physical, emotional, and mental health as well. So as you can see, confidence does play a role, and really getting ahead in life, right? If you have any kids, I'm always telling my boys to be who they are and have confidence in who they are, not in their grades, not in other people liking them, or not, valuing how many friends they have, because then we tend to rely on other things to boost our confidence, when reality, the confidence needs to be exuded from within, and that's something worth cultivating, in my opinion, for all the benefits that I just mentioned. So let's now dive into stress and how that might physiologically affect you to affect your confidence, right? Because there is a physiological response to perceived threat to your life, or to anything that is status quo in your life, right? And like I said, there's the acute stress that can over time become a conditioned behavior, to where you can now have chronic stress, and stress might be the way you approach any situation in your life. For those of you who answer, oh, I have no stress, because there's not big things happening in your life, but you might already be conditioned to have this chronic stress to be running in the backgrounds of your neurochemistry, just by default. And that's something to lean into, to understand, and to connect the dot between confidence and your stress level, right? Because stress is your body's way of responding to the threats, and we need certain hormones to get ready to run for your life, right? It's that fight or flight autonomic response, and it's a physiological response for your body. It's a survival mechanism. And by virtue of our evolutionary makeup of human beings, that's how we were conditioned to operate in this world, to save our lives, right? Survival of the fittest, which is really the premise of the whole evolutionary theory by Darwin, right? So I want you to understand that stress is natural, and it's an essential process of your body to sort of navigate your life. But many of us have stress that is underlying, that is really playing into our everyday cycles. Like I said, it's a conditioned way to be. So I want you to really understand what stress is, and then how confidence is very, very important. Two very separate things, but I want to pull it together to talk about the relevance of stress and confidence together. Because I want you to understand that stress, when it's activated or triggered, it activates your amygdala, which is a brainstem of your brain. It's at the base, and it's highly emotional. And so there's no logic, there is no rationality in what you feel, but that stress might be just the alert that you need to feel that heart palpitate. You might have sweaty palms. It's like, think about going in front of an audience. You have stage fright. Because when you were in third grade, you got on top of that stage and everybody laughed at you. And you have that trauma from the past, and you don't recognize it in your 40s today, but that might trigger something when you're in front of people and people are all eyes on you. You have that, oh my gosh, that moment, right? It's a physiological response to that feeling, that memory, and then your body knows exactly what to do because it's programmed into that condition. I hope you're following me. And that's when the stress response comes, our rationality of who we are, the confidence and the inner power completely dissipates to paralyze us, like dead in our tracks, and we can't do anything. And I just want you to be aware of that, and its relevance to your confidence levels. I talked about how a lot of people think stress is this big life-changing event, and it's almost like guilt trip when I ask, do you have any stress in your life? Because all things are good, but they can't deny to themselves that they have underlying stress every day. And then they might say, I'm just an overall anxious person. Well, anxiety comes from stress, you guys. And I want you to understand, for me, the small stressors, the small S, not the big S, life-changing, divorce, motor accidents, or illness, nothing like that. But the subtle stress comes from all the shoulds, musts, and I ought, and I should, all the things that we think we ought. So let me just bring it down to stress and confidence when it comes to, let's say, working out, right? Some of us think, oh my gosh, we've got to work. And for a long time, I will tell you, I used to think that I needed to work out every single day. And it's not just 10 minutes on the treadmill. It was an hour and a half full powered Ashtanga yoga that I had needed to practice. And that needed to be practiced every 7 days, right? Every day for 7 days. And that was my goal. And then I set that for myself when I couldn't, and I didn't, because it's nearly impossible to predict what happens, especially with the little ones when I was practicing seriously. I would put undue stress in my life to say that's what I should do. And when I couldn't, the fact that I couldn't check that off now became the stressor. And then it would be, I have to run and get ready and take my kids to school, pack their lunch, do all the things. The fact that I couldn't have a full makeup on, didn't have any clothes that were clean, I had food stains all over me when I'm driving my son to school, little things like that starts to slowly seep in and catch up with you. And every day as my sons got older, when they were in middle school and high school, when they were able to do things on their own, I still had the anxiety, like in the morning, and I would still notice myself just conditioned for the anxiety that set in, even when I went and did my yoga, even when I made my kids breakfast and lunch and did all the things. It wasn't until I really realized that stress response, that subtle stress response was there, that I figured out that it was unnecessary. Another example that I might give you is I had stress with food, I told myself, no gluten, no dairy. I was on this elimination diet for as long as I can remember. I was eating like barely any food, down to 10 foods at most of variety. And I would eat the same things every single day. And I remember being stressed when I was asked to go out to eat or get invited over to dinner at my friends, because I would stress over the food. What am I going to eat? Because then it became an unnecessary thing. And even though people totally praised me for being so disciplined and so this and so that, all in the name of health, I was creating this subtle stress response within myself for the sake of being healthy. So I hope you guys are kind of seeing the patterns here. And so I just want you guys to really connect the dots in that way so that you guys understand when I say the small stress, that those are the things that will catch up with you in the long run. Because in essence, stress does divert oxygen away from the body to make sure, or oxygen away from the brain to the body, so that we can run for our lives. And when we do that, that stress response will take away our ability, or our organ's ability, to metabolize and detoxify, meaning a lot of people who have chronic stress have gut and digestive discomfort for that reason, because then all the oxygen and the attention from the body is going to that fight or flight. Any minute now, I gotta go run. And you're so stricken with fear that even if you had a nice salad, chicken salad, that was so healthy for lunch, your body's not able to provide any oxygen towards your gut because it's busy redirecting the energy towards your muscles in readiness for the ability to run for your life, so to speak. So these are really, really strong shifts in the body that I want you to take note of, because confidence will eat people or take the best of their intentions away to cause a lot of self-doubt. When we doubt ourselves, we don't make smart decisions. We start to listen to everybody else. We become very anxious ridden, and we become so dependent on everything else but the real thing that matters, which is what's in here, right? And then I talked about the anxiety. Stress does trigger these anxiety, and this anxiety state does anybody any good, because it's not only pumping the heart rate goes up, blood pressure rises, you can't think straight, you can't do anything straight. So it's anything and everything to get away from your own thoughts, as well as ultimately it's going to lead to you crashing and burning. You're going to be completely without self-esteem. And that self-esteem is intimately linked with confidence, right? And so confidence comes from your ability to have clarity in who you are, as well as the courage to feel the feels, to go through strategically and unravel some of these triggers, so that you can then muster up the confidence and cultivate it in your body by assuming physical position as well as mental outlook, so that you can ultimately have compassion and love for yourself, no matter what the circumstances might be outside of you. So ways to combat stress and boost your confidence is plan out and strategize what your time looks like and what's really important to you. For me, looking my best, feeling my best, and doing all the things to support it so I can show up as my best is super important. That's health. And to me, when I break health down, what makes me feel really good is my yoga practice. That's physical movement in essence. Not the one that's like hardening and damaging my joints by running or heavy lifting, but just enough toning to where I have functional ability to get up and move without any aches or pains, knowing that I've got a stable, strong, foundational body that I possess, and it's back in my arsenal, or it's my armor that I can put on. The other thing is I have to provide myself good nutrients, and I almost don't eat when I'm anxious or stressed out to the max, because I know I can't digest it. And I sometimes will have to, I can't eat, I can't consume, my throat won't, accept the food. Everything will want to come up for me. I'm not a good stress eater, but other times when there's stress, that's one way to cope to avoid the feels. The other thing that I want to really mention is that mindfulness, your ability to understand and know thyself of what is really being triggered, right? So for example, if somebody asks me out for a dinner, family dinner, we get asked out, I get triggered because my stress comes first, like, what am I going to eat? Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to sit there and whatever. But instead of doing that, you can sort of be mindful of what the trigger is, because at the end of the day, the thing that you think you're fearing that's causing that much stress to dampen your confidence is not a big deal. It's just a big deal dramatized in your brain, right? Remember, stress is very dramatic. It's not who you are. So always knowing your roots, that takes a lot of mindfulness and awareness, and yoga helps with that movement piece, but the breath with movement is really helpful. But sometimes if you just can't seem to quiet your mind, is when I do practice a very powerful yoga practice. But if I just need to calm my mind, it might take 3 minutes of my time to just choose to breathe and just connect with my eyes closed and just breathe and let the fear and that anxiety and that stress dissipate, or I just become aware of what my thought process is so that I can really hone in on it. The other thing that I do, I have a few people that I call on whenever I'm going through this rabbit brain. I know my mind's going crazy. So these people are people that I trust. They know me really well, and they know the work that is required for me to be pulled out of this crazy cycle of mine. So these are trusted support group of people that I know that's not going to trigger me. They're not going to make my stress more pervasive. They know the wise words, and they say the least amount of words that's going to pull me out of my own monkey brain, monkey mind. And you should find a good group like that you can trust. And I think that social support is really important. Other times, another good idea, if they're not available or you don't want to bother them, journal. I write down all the crazy thoughts without filter, just start to jot them down, and then I take a look at it. And then I just go to a breathing session, or I might just walk away from it. When I feel better, when I read it, I'm able to completely crumple my journal. Well, I don't crumple, but I'm able to really wrap my head around what stayed, and then I realize, oh my gosh, third person. I don't have to think like that, you know? And this is all about habitual practice of cultivating your own confidence, not in what you think other people think of you, but really in what you think of yourself. And that's what this is all about. So really be mindful of the small s stressors in your life. Do not minimize its importance and its impact on your confidence. And remember, my friends, confidence can only come from within you. It doesn't get cultivated from outside of you. No matter how many praises you get, it's not yours until it comes from yourself. So I will see you guys all next week.
Thank you for listening to the Mind Your Health podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, we would so much love it and appreciate it if you share it with someone who could benefit as well as to subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else where podcasts are found. And leave us a review. We would be so grateful, and it helps us to reach more people just like you, so you can become more empowered to enjoy longevity and health. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Dr. Connie Chung. And of course, you can subscribe to this podcast for a new episode every single week. Thank you again.